The rain hammered against the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists as Marcus wiped the condensation from the glass with his calloused hand. His 10-year-old son, Jamie, sat beside him in the passenger seat of their battered pickup truck, counting the coins they'd earned from Marcus's day labor job. $17.43. Not enough for groceries and gas, but they'd make it work somehow. They always did. Marcus had learned to stretch every penny since his wife. Sarah passed 3 years ago. Cancer had taken her slowly, draining not just her life but their savings, their hope, and nearly their will to continue. But Jamie needed him, and that was enough reason to get up every morning, to take whatever work he could find, to keep pushing forward, even when his body ached and his heart felt hollow. "Dad, look," Jamie said suddenly, pointing through the rain-streaked window. 2 small figures huddled beneath the broken awning of an abandoned gas station. Girls no older than 7 or 8, identical twins with matching pink backpacks clutched to their chests. Their clothes were soaked through, their small bodies trembling violently in the November cold. Marcus slowed the truck. What are they doing out here alone? The old gas station sat on a desolate stretch of highway, miles from the nearest town. No other cars passed. The wind howled through the empty pumps, and the girls pressed closer together, their faces pale with fear and exhaustion. Every practical bone in Marcus's body screamed at him to keep driving. He had his own child to worry about, his own problems. $17.43. A leaking roof. Bills piled on the kitchen table. He couldn't afford to take on someone else's crisis. But Sarah's voice echoed in his memory, something she'd said during one of their last conversations. "The world measures us by what we do when it costs us something." Marcus pulled into the gas station. The girls looked up as he approached, their eyes wide with a mixture of hope and terror. They were beautiful children, with dark curls, plastered to their foreheads and matching faces that mirrored each other perfectly. "Hey there," Marcus said gently, crouching down to their level. "You girls okay? Where are your parents?" The twins exchanged glances. The one on the left spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. "Our daddy's car broke down. He went to get help and told us to wait here. But that was, I don't know how long ago." "Hours," the other twin added, her teeth chattering. "It's been hours." Marcus felt his chest tighten. What kind of father left 2 little girls alone on a highway in a storm? But he pushed his judgment aside. Right now, these children needed help. "I'm Marcus, and this is my son, Jamie. What are your names?" "I'm Emma," said the first twin. "I'm Ella," said the second. "Well, Emma and Ella, you can't stay out here in this weather. Why don't you come with us? We'll get you somewhere warm and figure out how to find your dad." The girls hesitated, and Marcus didn't blame them. Stranger danger was real, and they were smart to be cautious. "My dad's a good person," Jamie chimed in from behind Marcus. "He helps everybody. Last week he gave our last sandwich to a homeless man." Something in Jamie's earnest face must have convinced them, because the twins nodded and followed Marcus to the truck. The drive home was quiet except for the rain, and the occasional sniffle from the back seat. Marcus turned the heat up as high as it would go, though he knew it would cost them in gas. The girls needed warmth more than he needed to save a few dollars. Their small apartment above the hardware store wasn't much. 2 cramped bedrooms, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, and a bathroom with perpetually dripping faucet, but it was clean and warm. Marcus had made sure of that. "Jamie, get some towels," Marcus said as they climbed the stairs. "Girls, you're going to catch pneumonia in those wet clothes. Let me see what I can find for you to wear." He dug through the donations box. He'd been saving for the church clothing drive and found 2 of Jamie's old T-shirts. They'd be huge on the twins, but they were dry and clean. While the girls changed in the bathroom, Marcus inventoried his refrigerator. 2 eggs, a quarter loaf of bread, some cheese that was probably still good, half a jar of peanut butter. He could make grilled cheese sandwiches and save the eggs for the girls' breakfast. "Are you hungry?" he asked when Emma and Ella emerged, swimming in Jamie's old shirts. They nodded vigorously. As the sandwiches sizzled on the stove, Marcus tried calling the local police station to report finding the girls. The line was busy. He tried 3 more times with the same result. The storm must have caused accidents all over the county. We'll try again in a bit, he assured the twins. For now, let's eat. The four of them sat around the small kitchen table, and Marcus watched as the girls devoured their sandwiches like they hadn't eaten in days. When they finished, their eyes were already drooping with exhaustion. You girls can sleep in my bed, Marcus said. I'll take the couch. But where will you sleep? Emma asked, concerned. The couch is plenty comfortable, Marcus lied. The springs had gone out months ago, and it left his back aching every time he dozed off on it. You two need proper rest. As he tucked them into his bed, the only bed in the apartment with decent blankets, Ella grabbed his hand. Thank you, Mr. Marcus. You're really nice. You're both very welcome. Your dad's probably worried sick about you. We'll find him first thing in the morning. But the morning brought new complications. Marcus woke to Jamie shaking his shoulder. Dad, Emma's burning up. Emma had developed a high fever during the night. Her face was flushed, and she shivered despite the blankets piled on top of her. Marcus pressed his hand to her forehead and cursed under his breath. The girl needed a doctor. He checked his wallet. $17.43, plus the emergency 20 he kept hidden in a coffee can. $37 total. Not enough for an emergency room visit, but he couldn't let this child suffer. Jamie, stay with Ella. I'm taking Emma to the clinic. The free clinic didn't open for another 2 hours. So Marcus sat in the truck with Emma bundled in his jacket, rocking her gently as she whimpered with fever. When the doors finally opened, the nurse took one look at the little girl and rushed them back. Severe cold bordering on pneumonia, the doctor said after examining her. She needs antibiotics and rest. The medication will be $45. Marcus felt his stomach drop. I only have 37. The doctor studied him for a long moment, then glanced at Emma. Pay what you can. Get her the medicine. Marcus handed over every dollar he had. Back at the apartment, he gave Emma her first dose of antibiotics and settled her back into bed next to her sister. The girls had no clean clothes except the oversized T-shirts. No toothbrushes, no belongings except those pink backpacks, which contained only a water bottle and some crackers. For 3 days, Marcus cared for the twins as if they were his own. He fed them what little food he had, rationing carefully to make everything stretch. He gave Emma her medicine on schedule. He called the police repeatedly, but with the storm damage overwhelming the county, finding one missing father wasn't a priority, especially when the girls were safe and cared for. Jamie shared his books and toys without complaint. The apartment filled with the sound of children's laughter for the first time since Sarah died, and Marcus found himself smiling at odd moments, despite the stress of empty cupboards and an empty wallet. On the 4th morning, a black Mercedes pulled up in front of the hardware store. A man in an expensive suit stepped out, his face haggard with worry and exhaustion. He looked up at the apartment windows, then rushed toward the stairs. Marcus opened the door before the man could knock. Are you Mr. Marcus Peterson? The man asked, his voice breaking. I am. My daughters, Emma and Ella, please tell me they're here. Please tell me they're safe. Marcus stepped aside and the man practically fell through the doorway. The twins looked up from where they were coloring with Jamie at the kitchen table. Daddy! They shrieked in unison, launching themselves into their father's arms. The man, who introduced himself as Richard Chen, wept openly as he held his daughters. The story spilled out between his tears. His car had broken down on that desolate highway. His phone had died. He'd walked for miles trying to find help, but by the time he'd reached civilization and gotten back to the gas station, his daughters were gone. He'd been searching frantically ever since, hiring private investigators, working with police in 3 counties. I can never repay you, Richard said to Marcus, his eyes red-rimmed. You saved my daughters' lives. If you hadn't stopped, if you'd left them there, any decent person would have done the same, Marcus said quietly. But not everyone is decent, Richard replied. And not everyone would have given their last dollar to buy medicine for a stranger's child. Marcus froze. How did you? The doctor at the clinic. When I finally tracked the girls here, I called everywhere trying to piece together what happened. She told me what you did. She told me you had 37, dollars and gave every cent of it for Emma's antibiotics. Richard pulled out his checkbook. "Please, let me reimburse you. Let me do something." Marcus shook his head. "I don't need your money. Your girls are safe. That's enough." "Mr. Marcus," Richard said, his voice firm now, "I'm the CEO of Chen Technologies. I'm what people call a millionaire, though that's just a number. What matters is this. You showed my daughters more kindness in 4 days than most people show in a lifetime. You gave them everything when you had nothing. That's not something I can simply walk away from." Over Marcus's protests, Richard insisted on at least covering the medical bills, the food, the utilities for those 4 days. But it didn't stop there. Over the following weeks, Richard returned again and again, bringing groceries, arranging for the apartment's repairs, and eventually offering Marcus a position managing facilities at Chen Technologies, a steady job with benefits, insurance, and a salary that would change everything. "I don't have experience in that field," Marcus protested. "You have something better," Richard said. "Integrity, character, the ability to do what's right when no one's watching. And it costs you everything. Those are things I can't train into someone. The rest you can learn." The job transformed their lives. Jamie got new clothes, proper school supplies, and eventually they moved into a small house with a yard. But Marcus insisted on staying humble, on remembering where they'd come from. Emma and Ella visited often, becoming like sisters to Jamie. Richard and Marcus developed a deep friendship built on mutual respect and gratitude. Years later, at Jamie's high school graduation, Marcus sat between Richard and the twins, watching his son accept a scholarship to engineering school, a B scholarship funded by the Chen Family Foundation. "You know," Richard said quietly, "that night in the rain changed all our lives. You gave me back my daughters, but you gave them something else too. You showed them that real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured in the size of someone's heart." Marcus smiled, remembering that cold, wet night. The impossible choice that hadn't really been a choice at all. Some things you did because they were right, not because they were easy or profitable or practical. Sarah had been correct all along. The world measured you by what you did when it cost you something. And on that measurement, Marcus Peterson would always be the richest man he knew.